Hey Cowichan, it's Alec Wheeler, Events and Membership Manager with the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce, and we're here with another session of Biz Banter. I'm very delighted to have with me today David Robertson, the new head of school at QMS, Queen Margaret School. David, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, David, you're new to the QMS team, but you come by way of Shawnigan. You were head of school there for several years, and then prior to that at Brentwood. But I've detected a bit of an accent, so tell us where you're from originally.
Yes, it's difficult for me to mask my accent, even after all these years, right? So I'm originally from Edinburgh, born and bred, did my schooling in Aberdeen, which probably made my accent even thicker. Came to Vancouver Island in 1986. So I'd never been to Canada, and I basically plonked down in Mill Bay in 1986, and this has been home ever since. Really proud Canadian, love this country.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and congratulations on your new position at Queen Margaret School. Now, you've been there 10 weeks and in the middle of a global pandemic, so how's that going for you?
Well, I've always talked to young people about embracing challenges in life, right? It's when you embrace challenge, you come alive. And so I had to walk the talk in this one. So when this came up rather suddenly, and I took a moment to say, well, which bit of all this freedom that you've got in your retirement phase are you not enjoying? And I was loving lots of it. But at the end of the day, I couldn't resist the chance to get involved in doing something meaningful again, particularly in these challenging times. And it's been energizing, to be honest with you. Problem solving is what you spend your life doing, or what I've spent my life doing. And this was the ultimate in problem solving. So.
Now, day one, back in school, we're in phase 2 of BC's startup plan, and hopefully moving towards phase 3 soon. But this is the first day back at school, and we'll get to that in a minute. But backtracking to when the pandemic first hit, and all of the steps and the transitions that have happened since then, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the main challenges that were dealt with at QMS and how you went about meeting those challenges? Yeah,
right. I think one of the things that I reminded myself very early is that I'm a great fan of this saying. I think it was attributed to Eisenhower, actually, who said there is no plan, there's only planning. And so planning is a constant activity. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to meet and we're going to draw up a plan, and in this COVID environment, that was even more true than it ever has been, because of course things were changing daily. Everything was shrouded in uncertainty. Nobody knew when this was going to happen, if this was going to happen. So I think that set the tone for my approach here with the team. Was let's be nimble and have a number of planning exercises on the go. So plan A, plan B, plan C, and all of those are subject to tweaking and modifying. And so that was it. And so the communication was probably job number one, trying to reassure our parents and our kids, actually, and our staff. I think that's one of the main jobs of a leader when a crisis happens, and we've seen it so brilliantly with Bonnie Henry. That ability to be very calm and very focused, and I mean John Horgan's done a super job as well, and I think that's what we need in times of crisis.
Absolutely.
I've always said, that when a crisis happens, in my experience, the first thing you do is you take a deep breath, and this little line from a poem comes back to you. If you can keep your head when all around are losing theirs, right? And that's the leader's job.
Yes, well said, very well said. Now, of course, the school systems across the province, across the country, globally, went through this, I'm going to say, a bit of a panic when this all first hit. How do we protect our kids? How do we protect the staff? Now that they're calling for closure, how do we support parents? but perhaps some unique challenges that QMS has is you've got students who board on the property there, and you've also run an equestrian program, so you've got animals that have to continue to be tended to regardless of any closures. So talk to us a little bit about those challenges and what shifted during the time to support those.
Yeah, so one of the things that very early in my time here, one of my first decisions was not to send back the boarders that we had on campus. We still had about 19 at that time, and actually a couple were in Vancouver and they came back. But so for a while now, we've had 21 boarders on campus, and I just felt that it was actually unsafe at that time. And I'm going back now quite a few weeks, where China, where many of them were from, China would be the worst, the last place you'd want to send a young person, particularly going through airports and all the rest of it at that time. I mean, obviously things are changing. But so that was one of the first things we had to face. Okay, we're keeping them on campus, but how can we do that safely? So social distancing, creating a bubble, so they've not been off campus, basically. So and the whole notion was if we can get them in their own bubble, a bit like our family bubbles, then we'll be doing the best job of looking after them, which is exactly what we did, and that worked really well. And then for the rest of the school, we thought, well, we have to try, like other schools, we have to try and come up with a really meaningful online engagement program. And I think it worked. I mean, obviously we're all so glad to be coming out of that period, because you know, we're just as we're often zoomed out these days, to use the new expression. I think the kids have kind of had more than their fill of online. But does that answer your question, Alec?
It does, absolutely. So as I said, we're in phase 2. There's murmurs of phase 3 kind of being on the doorstep here. Moving forward with conversations about the potential of a resurgence in the virus in the fall, what has changed in terms of how the campus is run and how your students are living day to day and how your staff are operating day to day? What's changed, and what are you carrying forward into this new normal, so to speak?
Right, I think that's a good question. Today was day 1 for us, and it was almost like the return from at the beginning of the school year after Labor Day. There's such excitement as we had staggered the arrivals by grade and even given parents times. So they came in and there was a kiss and go zone where they dropped them off. I was there to greet them, say hi, and then they were taken through this thermal imaging system that we've put in place, just as another safeguard to try and create a safe bubble. But the big difference right now, and just been watching it, is watching them doing phys ed, watching them doing recess out in carefully marked areas on the field, so that we're trying to do this physical distancing thing properly. And then, of course, we've only got half the class at a time, so they split each class into Group A and Group B, and so Group A came today, Group B comes tomorrow, and they alternate like that. Yeah.
Wow, I can't even begin to imagine the amount of careful coordination and scheduling and juggling that must have taken to sort of time arrivals in groups like that, and even ongoing, timing breaks, and as you say, the Group A and Group B. What an opportunity to test your coordination skills as a team there, for sure.
Totally. Well, the team came through big time, I think, and I just have this feeling, again, having been around a long time, around organizations a long time, is that if you want a team to work, you have to get them to act as a team, first of all, but you have to challenge them as a team. Okay, and then obviously you challenge them as a team, instilling the confidence in them that you know that they can pull this off, and then give them the right feedback. Well, this team has done a fabulous job of all the logistical details of this return that you've alluded to right there. Yeah.
I'm recalling back on social media where Premier Horgan posted a letter addressed to the Easter Bunny, giving him special exception to visit during the quarantine period. You know, for all the kids out there, and while that's you know, perhaps a little bit younger than the majority of your students there, it draws an interesting point about our kids and our youth. And while they have a tendency to be, you know, very resilient and very positive and energetic, I wonder at how this is all affecting them, that level of uncertainty, the change in their routine, the change in their social structures, especially when that socializing is so fundamental for them at these ages. So are there things in place that you've put in, supports in place for the sort of emotional and social and mental aspect of supporting the students?
Right, totally. And well, our faculty and our counselors have been active all through this, having little one-on-one Zooms with the kids, because I think that's really important. But this return to school for us is actually focused on spirit and community building. It's not so much focused on curriculum delivery. We're not really going to take the academic content much further forward. It's actually all sorts of team building, spirit building activities. And I've just this is day one, but I've just been watching it and see these all these happy, smiling faces, just happy to be together again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the most important things for them, because their social and emotional well-being has suffered during this period. I watch it with my own grandsons. They're down in Victoria, and I can see the confusion, the anxiety, and I think it'll be interesting as parents, when we look back on this in a year's time, we might see that there were some residue effects of this period on these young people. So.
Yeah. Now, speaking of residual effects, obviously the school year was interrupted in March, and you've been away for a couple of months. And as you've just mentioned, you're focusing now, you know, coming back in June towards the end of a school year, you're focusing more on community building and that social and emotional well-being. So where does that put you come September in terms of all of the grades and where everybody left off in the curriculum? And what's your approach to sort of bridging that gap?
Yeah, we're going to have to do some catch up. I think as a society, actually, not just this school, all schools. And so there's going to have to be a conscious beginning to the next school year, where the first month is geared at catch up. A lot of people are hesitant about going into August, because for me that might be a natural. Try and use some of August for some catch-up work, but because we don't really know how different or how much the same school will be in September, I think that's difficult. But one thing that we do know is that come September, we will definitely spend the first month trying to get everybody up to the same place creatively, right? Some will need more, some will need less, and then excuse me. And then we might have to claw back some time here or there over the next few months after that to try and catch up to where we should have been on the curriculum, if you know. So.
Absolutely. Now, as with you know, as with any of the schools in our community, each school is their own sort of micro community built up of parents and students and teachers and staff. So if you have a few words or that you want to put out to the QMS community, anything you'd like to say?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you. Those two words. I'm so proud of them, actually, and it sounds funny because of the remote learning aspect of it, and people working from home, and you know, my first couple of staff meetings were all on Zoom, right? I'm confronted by a whole sea of faces on Zoom, none of whom, not none of whom, but most of whom don't really know me. So for them to respond in the way that they have is just simply outstanding. So I want to say thank you to them and tell them how proud I am of them.
Wonderful. Well, listen, first day back at school, head of the school. I'm sure you've got plenty of things to be preoccupying your time with right now, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. But thank you so much, David, for joining us today. Congratulations again on your new post with QMS, and we look forward to hearing many good things in the coming months and years.
Thank you very much for arranging this today, Alec, and I look forward to meeting you in person at some point.
Likewise. Cowichan, that's been another session of Biz Banter with the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce and Queen Margaret School. We'll see you